Hi, this is Vinnie Zummo. You're looking at Profiles and we'll be coming right up.
Welcome to Profiles. I'm Mickey Burns. Today's guest is guitarist and songwriter Vinnie Zummo. Over the past few decades, Vinnie has been one of the most in-demand session guitarists in the music business, working with legends such as Art Garfunkel and Roger Daltrey. Additionally, as a featured guitarist, Vinnie has toured with the great Joe Jackson for 7 years while playing on 6 of his albums. After a short break, I'll be back to welcome Vinnie Zummo to Profiles. Welcome back to Profiles. I'm Mickey Burns. Today's guest, guitarist Vinnie Zummo, has played and toured with many of the legends in the music industry. He has also released 12 solo albums of his own, writing most of the material while playing all of the instruments on many of his albums. In 2017, his jazz album Coyote made the Best Jazz Albums of 2017 list. So join me now as I welcome the multi-talented Vinnie Zummo to Profiles. Guitarist Vinnie Zummo, welcome to our show Profiles.
Thanks for having me.
For our viewers, you are one of the most in-demand session guitarists in the business, and you have been for many, many years. Been quite a career for you. As a guitarist, you toured with the great Joe Jackson, who I love, for 7 years, and you played on 6 of his albums.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the experience?
You enjoy parts of the experience. It's a musician's job, you know. I talked to somebody who worked with Ringo, and I'm a Beatle freak. And I said, "Oh, wow, how was he?" He said, "He's a lovely bunch of fellows." And that's pretty much anybody. You're on the road with people. You're seeing them all day long, every day, for like a year.
Yeah.
If they sneeze too loud, it gets on your nerves, you know. So it's that thing of working with people. You know, he's a good friend, but we're all so familiar. Anyone who did those tours, you know.
You get too familiar.
Yeah.
Now, when you were working with Joe Jackson, I read somewhere that you had to take an approach musically that you weren't used to or comfortable with. What adjustments did you have to make playing with Joe?
Well, I'll tell you the funniest thing. A friend of mine was doing the gig, Ed Reinsdale, keyboard player.
Yeah.
And he says, I think you get on this album. You know, he doesn't like to use guitar anymore, but I told him you play a little different. So
Yeah.
I went to his house, and he started getting ready to play, and I'm setting up my pedals, and I stepped on a fuzz toe, and I go, and he said, "You hear that sound?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Don't ever use that."
Oh.
I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he started playing "You Can't Get What You Want Till You Know What You Want," and I played the little lick. That was the first time I came up with the lick, and we used it. That's
You
what
like
we did.
that?
When we went in, it never changed through all the rehearsals. And it was interesting, because he's not a person who understands the guitar writing-wise. He understands everything else, because he's a trained classical composer.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He's got the calligraphy kit with the inkwell. And when he writes a chart, I saved them all. They're beautiful.
I bet.
I mean, he can write for 45, 50
And he went to
pieces.
school in London, I think, right?
He's all over.
Yeah, but
He's
he
in
was
New York. I
he
think
was
he lives
highly
in Germany.
trained. Yes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Also wanted to mention that besides Joe Jackson, as a featured guitarist, you've worked on albums with Art Garfunkel.
Yeah, great guy.
Roger Daltrey.
Yeah.
And many more. Totally opposites as far as musical taste.
Absolutely.
And you have to adjust along with that.
Well, you know, the thing is, somebody put it well. Somebody told me once, the guy I did a lot of sessions for, he produced a lot of different acts. He goes, "You're a good actor, because I will change into what they need."
Yeah.
For the thing.
Well, you know, my next question was going to be, when you're working with these accomplished musicians, how do you see your role?
you got to smell it out. You got to see what they want from you. It helps if they know what they want from the instrument. A lot of times, like Joe didn't know anything. He didn't know, like, play a strat on this one, or how about a middle pickup? You want to do something and reference a guitar player. He didn't know anything. I once did a classical album for him, and it was a nightmare. It was like, he didn't know how uncomfortable it was to jump from note to note. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Did you help him out?
There's nothing to help. He had a full orchestra there, and everybody, those guys read that stuff.
Yeah.
Classical musicians.
They read
Like,
note for note.
I had never worked with a classical conductor. I didn't know that the downbeat was, I think they go up, and like if you're doing a show, like a Broadway show, they go down on the downbeat.
Okay.
And I'd come in the wrong place, and one of the other guys doing the session helped me.
And you recently said this, which I thought was interesting. You said, one thing I learned early on is that some of these great musicians that you've played with all have their own unique way of writing and producing music.
Yeah, oh yeah. I find most people, they sit at a piano or guitar and write. See,
Yeah.
I can't do that. The only way I can write is in my head, and I sit down and write it on a piece of paper. If I pick up a guitar and I'm writing a song, the song stops. It's like somebody shut a faucet. Just the way it works for me.
Wow.
Half the thing about writing music, about being in this business, is, for example, in my case, how do I do Vinnie Zummo? You got to figure that out.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out, where does Vinnie Zummo fit with A, artist B, and where does Vinnie Zummo fit on his own music?
Also, for our viewers, right? I know you're very modest. You've always been. However, other musicians often refer to you as a genius.
Wow.
You don't hear much of that.
I don't hear that, no.
But I've heard it numerous times.
Oh, that's warming.
Yeah, and when I heard other people speaking of you in those terms, I said, that's not bad for someone who couldn't even read music well into their 20s.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing. I learned by ear, and I found myself doing session work, and I had to learn how to read. So I went to the greatest reader in the world, who at the time, the late Barry Galbraith. Great teacher, great guitarist. And within 6 months, he had me reading, sight reading.
Problem. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know it until he said, you read now.
Yeah.
You know.
Memories still flow from the past, while time just keeps moving too fast. Listening so long ago, we always knew it was John. He continues to stun me.
Was the problem that reading was too structured for you as a musician?
Well, I have perfect pitch, which means I can hear a note and tell you what it is. So everything is music, and everything is sound. And like when I tried to study music in college, when they started talking about intervals, like the one is this, in key of C it's C, in the key of D it's D.
Right.
And it's like, for me, no, one is always C. So I can't do the whole number thing, because I hear it.
Yeah.
I also can't, I've had trouble with gigs where people tune down to a lower tuning. They'll be playing in E, I'm playing in E flat.
Yeah, that's
But it
not
keeps you
gonna
on your
work.
toes, you know. I have to figure out all the closed inversions. But you just do, you know, you do what it takes.
I'm sure a lot of our viewers will be surprised to learn that you got your start in music on the accordion.
Yes. Yeah.
Which you credit for helping you to write songs
Yeah.
later on.
Well, I didn't just play accordion. I wasn't that great at it, but I was part of a classical orchestra. And we would compete. We had a timpanist, and they had something called the bass accordion, and they had like 40 accordions. We won the world competition. Played Carnegie Hall.
Oh,
I mean,
gosh.
we were, in the accordion world, we were a big deal. Nothing comes of that.
Right.
I credit hearing all that classical music at that early age. That's the best music in the world, the best melody lines, all in my head.
Right. Well, let me read, you said this some years back. Let me read what you said about the accordion. You said, it's considered really hip now, the accordion. Right? But when I was a kid, it was embarrassing to play the accordion.
You had to hide it.
You were a nerd, man.
Well, you know, when
weren't cool.
when I work with my trio, I always try to save a song at the end where halfway through I go over to the accordion. I leave an accordion on the piano, a little accordion. And I swear to God, when I take the guitar off and put the accordion on, the crowd goes insane before I play a note. Look at it, and I'm just like so befuddled. I can't figure it out.
Funny.
Yeah.
So are you thinking of bringing the accordion back?
No, it's a great textural instrument. People don't realize that. If you just use it in the background,
It's not bad.
it'll hold, it's like a harmonium almost.
That's
And
great.
drones are pretty much in.
Now, you are a native of Staten Island.
I used to be, I've been here for
I know, but
37 years.
Your roots
Yeah,
are that of Staten Island,
yeah.
right? Was there a lot of music in your house growing up as a kid?
Oh yeah, Dad played. My uncles played. My sisters played the accordion. We'd play constantly. Any family gathering, we'd play. I have pictures of the family where I'm the only one in the picture alive. It's really creepy.
Yeah.
But we all have guitars and accordions. And no, I actually, my clearest memory as an infant,
Yeah.
I swear to God this is true, is being in the crib and watching them play and wishing I was old enough to play.
Wow.
I remember thinking about it, saying,
And it's crystal clear in your memory.
Crystal, it's the only part of my childhood from that, like 1 or 2 years old,
Wow,
3 years
that's
old,
interesting.
that I remember anything.
Well, music has been most of your life. For how many years?
I started when I was 5.
There you go. So it's
Well,
been
put it
half a
this-
century.
I played the accordion, but when the Beatles came out on Ed Sullivan, I put my accordion in the closet, took Dad's guitar, combed my hair down. It was just like a,
Yeah. I have to
That
ask
thing.
you this question because I was wondering, had music not worked out in your life, because I don't think you've ever done anything else, but had music not worked out, did you have a plan B?
no.
What would have you done with your life if music hadn't worked out for you?
It's not, you don't do a plan B. If you have a calling for something,
That's it.
strong enough to make you want to play at 2 or 3 and count the days down until you could put an instrument in your hand. It's a sickness. I consider it almost like addiction. I
Music.
practice like 6 hours a day. My wife goes to bed at midnight. I'm up till 5 practicing. This is what I do. It's my life. And she said, why you keep practicing? You sound good. And no, it's not
You want to get better.
where I want it yet.
Now, you've also released 12 solo albums. Am I somewhere in the neighborhood?
Well, 8 that are still available. Let me see. I'm trying to think. Like 10 or 11, I
Yeah,
think.
you're up there.
Yeah,
double
ones that are not
digits, as
available.
they say. But you said something I thought was really interesting about that process, and this is what you said. Every album I've made, I feel like each one earned me a degree.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I can understand that. It's like writing a book, I guess.
There's an education you get from making an album that you will not get from any other experience in music. Because you have to think ahead. And the way I work, like, for example, I don't know if you've heard my song Ringo.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I'm going to talk about that in
I
a
heard
second.
that song in the shower one day, and I write songs in the style of a band, the way they would have recorded it if it was, except the voice. The voice is never, that's always the disappointment.
Well, let's talk about the Paul McCartney tribute, because what really impressed me with the song that you wrote, the video that you produced, fantastic. It looked like Yellow Submarine.
Well, that's the great Tim Ross. He conceived the whole video.
Fabulous, right?
It's great.
But what really impressed me is that you played all the instruments.
I've always done that.
Yeah,
That's what I do.
easy for you, but you know what? That's total control, isn't it?
Well, the thing is
One way to look at it.
when I write a song,
Yep.
the reason I don't write with an instrument is I get the song whole. I like the Ringo. Let's use it. It's a perfect example.
Yeah,
It was the clearest example of the way I work.
yeah.
I'm in the shower, and the whole song comes to me.
In the shower.
I hear the drum parts, I hear the bass, I hear the guitar. I don't hear the lyrics. I never hear the lyrics. You gotta.
You got to work them
The
out.
lyrics is like doing hard time. My wife does it in 10 minutes. She can write a song in 10 minutes. Me,
Yeah.
takes days to write the chords. But all the rest of it, I recorded exactly what I heard in my head, note for note. I swear to God, except the solo. I always leave that free so I can have some fun.
The sound I hear belongs to Ringo. All my life I tried so hard to find my voice, to tell my own story. But the sound keeps haunting me and haunting me and haunting me. The patterns of our life locked inside a four-bar
Today, how many instruments do you play total?
Well, I play all the stringed instruments, like guitar and a little banjo, a little 12-string, all that stuff you have to slide. I have all that, because doing session work, you get called to bring the strangest stuff. You know, but I also play drums, bass, and chromatic harmonica.
That's a lot. The guitar itself, I see Felix the Cat. Backstory to this guitar is?
The great Don Oriolo, he has Oriolo
yeah,
guitars.
yeah,
His father created Felix the Cat, and he has gone on to do it. He does paintings, he does toys, he does walls, phones. His whole house is Felix everywhere.
Yeah. Is this a one of a kind, or you buy this? At,
You know, I don't know.
You're not going to be able to get
I saw
this
it
at
at his
Kmart,
place.
right?
He said, "Which one do you want?" I wanted one that had peace signs all over it for the videos I make.
Yes.
And he wouldn't let me have that one, but he says, "I'll give you this one. Take this one." He's like, "Wow, this is pretty cool. I like it. It's like a
Felix the Cat
a
guitar.
missing cheap trick player. You know, he would have one of these." I
That's
think.
great. I wanted to talk about your new album, right?
Okay.
You're currently working on it, and it's very experimental, and you can tell us why that is.
It's very torture.
And the name of it is Jazz and Pop Tale Days. Tell us a little bit about the album, because I also read somewhere that it's partly related to the pandemic.
Oh yeah. Well, the pandemic hit, and my whole thing is music, 24/7. If I'm not doing something with my wife, like going out to dinner or something, you know, or we'll play a gig together, or we'll do all kinds of stuff, go out on the city, I'm playing music. I'm practicing music. I'm recording music. But however, when the pandemic hit, I'm forced to stay in the house.
Yeah.
So it was almost like I was forced to do music, and I didn't. The first time in my life, I had no desire to make any music.
It zapped you of your creative juices.
That's never happened. I
Wow,
don't react
wow.
emotionally to music. To me, my thing of wanting to get it right is so overriding of anything about feeling the feel of it. I'll feel it later when I hear it back, because I'm very emotional as a player. But when I'm playing it, it's like, this is all business, or if I'm writing, it's all business. Suddenly, I didn't want to do it. I didn't feel like it just seemed so inconsequential to sit and pluck a guitar while people were dying down the street.
There you go. Wow. So
You
you,
know, my
so you laid
brother-in-law
low.
died in Florida from it.
Yeah, I'd say it.
That was a slap in the face, but it made the album very different from anything I've done.
In 2016, you released a jazz album, now all original material. Name of the album was Coyote?
No, there's an album before that called Jazz Album.
That's
with
the
me and
second
Janice.
one.
Yeah.
But this one,
Coyote's different.
right, well, Coyote was one of on the list of the best jazz albums of 2017 list.
Wow, yeah. That's
That's pretty nice. When I hear some of your recordings, or a lot of your recordings, I hear two things. I hear a lot of Beach Boy harmonies somewhere in there, and I hear I always hear a Beatles feel.
yeah.
But that's in your blood, I guess, and there's nothing much you can do about that.
Well, I used to learn to play from their albums. Each album they put out, I'd learn the lead, I'd learn the rhythm, the bass, and the drums.
Wow.
And I got to know every song on every album, every part. And that kind of sinks into your brain.
Well, regarding other bands, of which you're a fan,
Yeah.
right? Some you like, others you don't like. And you said something I thought that was interesting. You said, if I dislike something, I'll re-listen every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
To see if I've missed something along the way.
Yeah, no, because if you just hate something,
Right.
that's ego.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not using logic.
And you said, sometimes I change my mind.
Not often, but sometimes.
sometimes.
I did recently on an artist that I never could stomach a note of it. And I heard something that I had heard a million times and said, oh, okay, now I understand.
You got it.
Well, you got to hear where it's coming from. Where does this sit in the time? Some people just have amazing time, you know.
Yeah, when you talk about the Beatles, do you find it incredible the amount of work that they put in a short period of time as far
ridiculous.
as writing? How was that accomplished? Now, it was like, did they sleep?
Perfect storm and no choice. They couldn't go out. They're on the road.
Well, that's true.
All you could do is go to the hotel room of the guy next door, because you can't dare go out of the hotel. You're going to get killed.
Right, so they had nothing else to do but to work.
And they always said about them, the Rolling Stones said, we called them the four-headed monster. They'd come in a club to hear your band. They were all wearing the same coat. He said it was very intimidating. And every person who ever played with any of them said, it's one thing to be in a room with one Beatle, one thing to be in two, but you got all four together and there was magic in the room.
Oh, man.
My sister worked for them, so I knew a bit. she worked after the breakup. She worked for a company, Abco, that managed John, Ringo, and George.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got to hear a lot of stories, and I got to see a couple. I met George, and he was really nice, but
That's
I
what I
walked
hear.
into a room where John Lennon was, and that was otherworldly. He had a whole other thing. He's like shiny. Like, yeah, he was a different kind of person. I think he doesn't know where the music came from. He knew nothing about music, but it allowed him to do something, go from 6/8 to 3/4 to 4, and
Yeah.
do it so normally and naturally.
Did you ever meet Ringo? Did you get to meet him?
No, I have a lot of friends who met him.
Yeah.
I've heard mixed things.
Okay.
You know, I don't know. I'm such a Ringo freak. I don't know if it would be good. You know?
Okay. Vinnie, today, when you reflect back on your impressive body of work in
Right.
music, right? It's been over 50 years, a tremendous body of work. What are your thoughts?
You know, I had a chance to listen to some of it during the pandemic. Because I don't listen to this stuff after I record it, really. 6 months later, I'll listen. Because anything you've done, like a couple of weeks after you did it, it sounds terrible to you.
Wow.
It's never going to sound good.
Wow.
But I listened to a couple of the tunes, and I just like, wow, that's pretty good.
Not bad.
I liked it.
Yeah, I understand
I've
that.
heard guitar playing, like
I
in a movie
understand that.
or on radio or something. I said, wow, I like that cat. And then I find out it was me. By the end of the song, I remember, oh, it was a session I forgot. So it's not ego-based.
What advice, Vinnie, can you share with young aspiring musicians, especially guitarists, who would love to carve out a career like you have for yourself?
Get a law degree. If you absolutely can't help yourself and have to play, like a burning disease in your brain, I have to play an instrument, then do it. But don't ask, like, should I be a dentist or a guitar player? Be a dentist. You know?
Wow, wow.
No, I would say if a kid absolutely has to play music,
Yep.
you don't need advice from me. He's going to do it, and they're going to do it their way.
Years from now, when you look back, what do you hope that your legacy will be?
I'd like to be big-minded and say what Frank Zappa said. He said, it doesn't matter. I don't want anyone to think of me. I could care less. But I can't say that. I'd like to know that people heard it and thought it was valid, that it did something in their lives. You know, music, you can touch people. And I never understand it because it doesn't do that to me at all. But you could play a chord. I've seen people cry over one chord, you know, or a line. If you play something,
The power of music.
and I look at it and it's just like, I don't get it. Because to me, it's all business. You know, I'm up there, I'm figuring it out. Later on, I might hear it back. I might shed a tear.
Okay.
I think I've only had 2 pieces of music that made me cry in my life. You know, one of them was Patsy Cline singing Faded Love. Did you ever hear that?
No.
The very
But I'm
last
going
note, she sings it by herself. The band stops, and her voice cracks. She's crying in the studio because she got beat up the night before from her husband. So she's in
Powerful.
sunglasses, all the lights are off, and she's sang. And singers try to duplicate that.
Can't
little
do it.
crack for years.
Can't do it. Well, I want to say one more time, Vinnie Zummo.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was
Great,
fun.
great session guitar player. Also, you have over a dozen of your own albums. I also want to do one more thing, and that's wish you much success
Oh, thank you. Same to you.
continued success. It's been a pleasure.
It's been fun.
Thank you.
It's enjoyable.
Play Paul McCartney. I wanna hear a Paul melody. I wanna go back to yesterday. Oh, can you take me away?
Guitarist Vinnie Zummo has spent his entire life playing and writing music. He openly admits he never had a plan B. Of the 12 solo albums of his own, Zummo recently said, "Every album I've made, I feel like each one earned me a degree." He's currently working on his 13th to be titled Jazz and Pop Tale Days. Well, that's about all the time we have left on this edition of Profiles. Until next time, I'm Mickey Burns. Thanks for tuning in.